All right. Hello. Welcome. Good evening, good morning, or good afternoon to everybody out there. Welcome to another live Monday session opening bell for the US markets. I hope everyone had a great weekend, got plenty of people in the room, and I'm certainly excited for a new week ahead. Is everyone else excited out there? I hope you are. Quick shout out to a whole bunch of people. Siddharth, good to see you. Mesh, Alejandro, Buzz, good to see you. S-Inv, Sandola77, Zach, or tell you Jack, Marlene, Pavel, Christina. So many people that have been coming. Horton, Dr. Horton, hello. Dan, good to see you there as well. Jacob, awesome to have so many people here. And of course, Farid, the winner, you will be receiving your money very soon. So thank you very much for applying back last week. Yes, this week, well, we are in for probably another week of always exciting volatility in the markets. But did anyone see that Friday close? Wow on the Nasdaq shares, especially the FANG. Wow. Let's have a quick look at that. Let's take a look and see what happened on Friday. Pretty much the sea of red was on the FANG shares. Most of the money was coming off that area, and it's interesting to see such movement in the markets. Every single time we think that things are going potentially long and you think that it's all about the tech stocks, then bang, the market comes and of course says, well, no, now we're going to buy utilities, the most hated sector a few months ago. And this is because the market likes taking money from you, from me, and from everyone else. And of course, it's our job to navigate through that. Thought it might be interesting just to quickly bring up just the damage that was done on the sectors in Friday. So here we have the damage that was done. As we can clearly see, it was led by the technology sector down 2.5, communications down 2, real estate doing better. I saw somebody mention before they were interested in looking at a bit of real estate, and utilities also doing quite well. And when we really change this to a bit of a different time frame, if we zoom this out a little bit and think about what's happened over the last 5 days, I better log back in. Let me just do that. Get that back in there. There we go. If we look at that over the last couple of days, you'll see clearly that over the last month, XLE, energy sector, tech sector have been underperforming sectors, while the utilities and real estate or REITs have been doing a lot better. So quite a lot of action actually in the market. It's a bit of sector rotation, and it's been pretty exciting. Now we'll go over to the room. We've got so many people saying hello to everybody, which is excellent. And that is great. Thank you very much for the support there, Farid, as well. Let's have a look at the markets, why don't we? Let's have a look at the markets coming in from the Asian and European session. S&P 500 up 0.67. So S&P 500 is still finding a little bit of strength. And the Nasdaq's up 0.83 ahead of the market, but that's still quite a lot lower than what we would expect with bullish momentum in the markets. So the S&P is really the one that's probably doing better at the moment, I would say. Russell 2000, 1551, other notables, crude, Brent, all of those types of things are up a little bit there. VIX down a little bit. We'll be looking at that chart in just a few moments. And if you have a look over the rest of the day, you've got gasoline doing quite well, with of course also natural gas coming up. That was a favorite of a few people last week. They were mentioning natural gas was on a big low. Let's go to the room. Got David in here. Hello there, David, to the trading community. Very good to see you. Akil Patel says it's the first Monday of the month. Hopefully that Friday was just rebalancing out. That will be going back in today. Yeah, absolutely. So rebalancing is something that we always look for in the markets. It's one of those things where there's a huge amount of money obviously moving around, and we've got to rebalance our bond portfolio with our growth portfolio. And when we're looking at defensives and growths, if you've ever not really looked at a portfolio construction of like a professional investor for a hedge fund or for a super fund or for 401k, I think it is, or something like that in America, effectively you do want to know and understand how that market works. Every quarter they've got to rebalance to get their percentages in line. And that's important because if there's been a big move in that quarter, then all of a sudden they're going to have to buy more of something and sell something else. And that movement can make the difference of quite a few billions of dollars each way. A few people wanting for us to kind of talk about the general news. Obviously, this whole Trump news is ever evolving scenario. I don't like to get too much into the political side of things, but you know, in this case, obviously his health is a major concern each way. It just will be for the market overall, and depending on what happens is what happens. I saw he was out there today supporting everyone. I think he was out there waving at a few people. I'm not sure what to think of that, but I did see a bit of controversy on the weekend as well, all about whether things are doctored, and it got pretty brutal. And I think that's what's going to continue. Now, will we see a second debate? No idea. No idea whether we're going to see a second debate or that's going to be cancelled. But it's a never evolving story, and that's what makes the stock market so interesting. When we have news every day that is interesting, that news then of course reflects in the stock market, and it's why we all enjoy this. It's why we enjoy looking at the charts. It's why we enjoy looking at, of course, investing in, and really if there wasn't big news, there wouldn't be any movement. We need to understand that. Bill says Trump is reported to be on the mend. He has released a video and he looks okay, better than Boris did. Yeah, Boris did not look well at all, did he, Bill? Wayne says, hi, Tom. What are your thoughts of the Sydney housing market in the next 6 months? Well, Wayne, I'm pretty much a bit of a bull for property. I think in Australia, a lot of people are probably American and European viewers here as well. But I think every country, and I've mentioned this quite a few times, it's a great point. Every country has a strength of investment, and that strength of investment is underpinned by government policies. So in the US, I would say the strength of investment is clearly in the stock market. I think the stock market is almost protected species in the US. The government, the Fed, a lot of emphasis is put on the stock market. It's actually one of the unique things about the American market. When we look at other countries, and I've said this in a video that wasn't that watched on our channel, but it was about the Australian market. The Australian government has a huge policy around housing. It's it's a very well-known secret that the government is all perma bulls on the housing market, and they do anything to support that market. So I'm pretty much a perma bull on that. I think immigration is a key, and of course, lowering the tax in our country, being Australia, we're going to have lowered tax as of the federal budget tomorrow. Whole bunch of other tax reasons are what is probably underpinning the market in housing. But I think also immigration is a big key point. Buzzblood says it's a totally protected species. Absolutely. Yeah, understanding your country's tax structure and what your country underpins, I think is key to trying to really navigate the financial markets. Some markets, Canada, I know is very strong in property. Singapore, very strong in property. Obviously Hong Kong, China, Australia, some of the other Asian countries. Whereas Europe is a bit of a mixed bag if you look at their policies. So coming into today, it looks like we're going to have a little bit of green. We're going to have S&P 500 most likely up in the start of the morning, and Nasdaq. But as we know, the morning has been often a little bit different to what the end of the day has been. So we saw that Friday close pretty weak. And let's get into the charts and start talking about that a little bit. So dollar index is probably the one that I'm watching coming into the market open. We're putting huge pressure now on the lows. We're seeing weakness in the US dollar, which is kind of like a bull sign generally for the stock market. And we're testing the 93.50. And the 93.50 zone was previous support before it wicked and bulled up. And we're testing that pre-open. So for me, the dollar index is pretty important. If we close below this zone, I think we could see further selling pressure all the way down to the 92.80. And why is that? Well, if we zoom this out a little bit, this chart, let's take a look at this, 92.80. Pretty key area of support. There's quite a lot of previous market bullishness around this zone. This is where it, of course, exploded out. And it's a little bit sad for dollar bulls to see this kind of false breakout, I guess we'd call it now. It broke out, closed above, moved higher, didn't even reach our 95, didn't even reach the 20 exponential moving average, and we're already seeing weakness. I'd like to see the dollar pull off this zone. If you want dollar strength, it really should be pulling off this zone. And of course, as I said in the videos on the weekend, we really want to have that 94 tested. Everybody out there a dollar bull or a dollar bear right now? Definitely interested to hear everyone's opinions on US dollar. Dollar bull or dollar bear for the next month leading into the election. I'd love to know what everyone thinks. Other notables around the market. Let's take a look at the VIX. The volatility index still stuck between two zones. Now we're using the CBOE contract, obviously the contract that is really probably the most common one that most people quote. Right here, we have between the 25 and the 30 zone. So of course, a big area in terms of VIX volatility index. We've actually opened a little bit higher than I expected. The VIX has opened at 28.9 for this week. So this contract's a little bit higher than I thought it would be. I thought it would actually be a little bit lower. We're basically getting up there to test that 30. Very key point. So we've got a lot of mixed signals here coming in from the community. You guys think that decent amount of bears? Bear dollars, bear dollars, bear dollars. Usually I find whatever generally a lot of people's opinion is, not saying it's yours, but the general retail opinion is often the opposite of what something will go. So there seems to be quite a lot of bearish, a little bit of bull as well. I'd almost say it's a mixed bag here, which means it could do anything. But 93.50 remains kind of my bear case here. A close below that, I think, significant, and a close above, of course, this $94 will get us back above the moving averages. You need a little bit of dollar movement there. I will show everybody this pound yen trade as well. This is, I think, a very good case of showing price action and a beautiful pattern. And of course, this can happen in a stock, it can happen in a currency, it can happen in a commodity. It's very key to look at that. But this is something that I was looking at this morning. I was talking about compression head and shoulders or inverse head and shoulders. So we've got over here, a couple of wick rejections. Wick rejection, wick rejection, wick rejection. I'll get rid of those candles now. But you can see here a bullish hammer or pin bar coming off. Now, it's not really the bullish hammer or pin bar that I focus on these charts. Remember, it could be any stock, anything in the future. Take a mental snapshot of this kind of thing. And what you'll see straight away is that this particular area has been rejected 3 times with wicks low and body closes higher. That's important because it's showing that the bulls are super confident in this zone. They're super keen to get into it, and they're pushing, of course, the pound yen higher. We then look at the formation, and we can see here over on the left-hand side, there was quite a lot of consolidation between two zones on the smaller time frames, a lot of wicks each way with bodies or long leg dojis in the middle. Then it moved down, formed the head, and then came back up and formed the right shoulder. So what I like to do is I like to think about the price action. We obviously have moving averages in kind of the rejection areas up here, but overall we're seeing bullish momentum on the price. Go down to the 4 hours and you'll have a quick look at this, and straight away you'll think, yes, this is looking a lot better. Nice compression left shoulder, beautiful head, really nice right shoulder as well. Series of higher lows coming through this. And what's even better is we've got a 20-50 cross as well on the 4 hour, which we'd expect by this kind of price action. So decent little take profit kind of target there. Quite a lot of movement that could be had in the yen pairs at the moment this week. And I think that just shows you a really nice formation and the thought process that goes into some of that, especially that daily wick rejection. It's very similar to what we saw on Bitcoin, where the multiple wick rejections were showing bullish intent at a key level. Tim, you get a shout out, Tim, instantaneously. These wicks remind me of the 10K level on BTC. Man, Tim, you reading my mind or what? You've obviously come to quite a lot of these sessions. That's awesome. Great to hear that that people are paying attention to some of these things. It's a massive deal. Those wicks, the bullish intention, the psychology of the market. Great work, Tim. Big shout out to you for that. What do you think about water desalination stocks? It's an interesting one, Mr. Baguette. I don't really know. I'm not going to say that I'm an expert at that. I'd love you to send me some codes though for some water desalination stocks. It's not a sector or area that I've gotten into too much, but yeah, I know that a lot of people are getting into water at the moment, and obviously agriculture I think is a big deal as well for the future. So quite a lot of things going on there. So around the markets we've got sorry about that. So around the markets, we've got the 25 VIX and the 30 VIX, 2 levels I'd instantly put on my chart. We're rejecting both zones. We really want for the bear side, the VIX to close above the 30. We know that that should then spike into around the 35, basically taking the distance of this kind of channel and extrapolating that out. And a huge amount of course, volatility in the market gives opportunity for us, technical traders, investors, anything else. We can be looking at dips, we can be looking at opportunities, all sorts of things. When we're talking about opportunity, I think the Nasdaq could have opportunity on it. The Nasdaq's obviously the weaker of the pairs. If we actually have a look here, only 0.58% up now coming into pre-market. So we're starting to have a little bit of turnover after the Asian session kind of movement. Remember, the futures mean nothing. They mean nothing to us. The only thing is really what happens at the end and the close of the day in the US market. That is the key to everything when you're trading. If you were to look at only one thing, looking at the daily close, looking at that last 1 hour of trade, the psychology that goes into that, super important thing to look at. Farid says, do we have a poll function for YouTube chat? We probably don't, but as I get better at streaming, as I get better at reading everyone's stuff, I will run a bunch of polls. I think there's things like straw polls and things that I can bring up. And obviously, I'd love to have more opinions of the community. So yeah, let's have a look at this Nasdaq. A few people commenting that they agree and there's could be quite a lot of opportunity here. So we've got this 11.6 zone, monster amount of resistance through that. We pretty much said this last week as a community that this was going to be the key level that we were looking at for bullish break and bullish cases. The reason we say this, multiple touches. We've got 1, 2 to the zone, 3 to the zone, and then of course 4 to the area. So we have quite a lot of touches to the zone. A lot of touches at 11.6. If we close through that, we have what I call green sky or blue sky above. Green, it only gets that name because of course we're trying to make profit. But there's not much market structure over here on the left-hand side. We just don't have a huge amount of structure, therefore we don't have a huge amount of resistance. We've really just got psychological levels there. And what I'm noticing with the Nasdaq is it generally likes moving in 200-point ranges. We have probably the 12,000 as being some kind of psychological resistance, but it barely was last time. And then of course we've got the 12.4 where it got to the previous time. And I expected to trade something like this. If it went up, it'd break through, come back down, test it. And this is where you want to be as a smart trader. If you're somebody that's looking at trading, the conservative entry off the retest of the previous resistances, what we call roll reversal, it's the best zone to be in. Great risk rewards. We'll go into that in some detail, maybe even today, and we'll talk about that one. But yeah, good zone, 11.6. On the bear side though, 11.2. Previous support, support again, and what could be leading up to further support or even a close break. And if we close below that, I wouldn't be surprised at all to get a retest of the 11.2 from the bottom, break down into the 11K psychological, previous little bit of resistance and support through there, and then of course a break of that back down to the 10.8 zone. So 200-point gap fills or incremental zones on the Nasdaq, I feel, this week. How's everyone feel about that one? Do you reckon 200 points makes sense if it breaks through this 11.2, or do we think it just fills to that 10.8? I really feel like 200 points is going to act as the support, and that's just because these previous support zones over here were so key and instrumental the first time. It kind of got through there barely, came back down and tested it again. But the 11.6 has been reached, the resistance has been reached, and we're starting to look a little bit weak coming into the market open. Linus says, can you share with us where you would take a trade if you were long or short? Yeah, I usually take the conservative entries more, Linus. Or if I'm feeling like the instrument is really good for breakouts, then I'll take a percentage. So a key thing that I would always look at is the close below. I need the close candle. I look at the time frame and I think and I consider, does the 4-hour time frame, is that where I want to see those breaks? Is that where I want to see the best structure in the market? Maybe the 4-hour is. So I wait for the 4-hour close, and then I make a kind of an idea of whether it's too far down or whether it's not far enough. So let's say we have the close down here and it only just goes through. Okay, it goes through by maybe 50 points. Then I might be thinking, okay, well, I can take the close break because it's not eating into my profit too much. The power of, though, taking the conservative pullback when it gets back to the 11.2 zone is that you can then wait for potentially an engulf candle on the smaller time frames. And where does your stop loss have to be? Just behind that level. And that's the power. Your stop loss only has to be just behind that confirmation, that extra level that you're going to in the market. If you take the confirmation breakthrough instead, the one that goes through and closes below, your stop loss might have to be all the way up here above previous market structure. So it really changes your risk reward. And that's why I always say conservative entries pay off more than the closers do. Conservative entries always pay off better than the closers do. Here we've got the pivots, the monthly pivots set up for the SPX. Remember, always try to do your analysis on the SPX whenever possible. Great thing to do. The community should be by now hopefully using a bit of SPX in their daily analysis. This is the real market. So you'll notice it chops and gaps and fills and does all those types of things. But that's because, of course, it only opens during the real market. Gives us a very good idea of clear support resistances. And sometimes it's worthwhile as well switching it over from the candlesticks to the bars and having a look at it, and the candlesticks into the bars, and then of course the lines. The lines are actually used quite heavily to kind of cut out chop. And whenever you're looking at patterns and structure in the market, try to use the line charts because they're showing you the close prices. So they give you a really good indication of whether that pattern is formed beautifully and really nicely, or whether it's maybe a little bit janky. We don't necessarily want that janky kind of pattern. So here we have the SPX, and of course right now we can see that it's coming back down a little bit. We've hit the central pivot. So let's look at this central pivot. We've got our numbers here on the right hand side. Central pivot was sitting around 33.86. Where did the market stop? Really close to that level. It only got to the 33.95, and the body close was just underneath the 33.86. So it's respected the central pivot. It's then shorted off a little bit, sold off. And now the S1 is sitting just under 3,200, the 31.85 zone. Another thing to note about central pivots, they're pretty much generally touched by the market through the month. There's a pretty high statistical chance that central pivots get touched. Obviously it didn't get hit here, but they do like being touched quite a lot. They usually get hit, tapped, open around that area, that kind of thing. So short off of the central pivot, off the resistance does make sense on the SPX. S2, more interesting to me, right on the 3,000 level. We've got a 3,008 handle for the monthly S2, and for the top, a 35.62. So all of these pivots make tons of sense to me with key resistance levels and key support levels. If you're wondering how to get it, just type in TradingView, pivot, and then if you go down to this CPR one, you can then turn off the weekly, daily high lows. So maybe consider doing that. But yeah, pivots are quite good for figuring out monthlies. I like them for monthlies and weeklies in, of course, the stock markets, specifically the SPX, and I like the daily in the currency markets. Jai English says, Tom, what does janky meaning? It means kind of a bit dodgy. Or as I say, doji. I swear, I think my mate did this on purpose. See down here? He just decided to pull out my Steam there on this computer. We'll get rid of him. He's definitely watching the stream. He's definitely laughing right now. He always does that. I once left it on a webinar and he just loads up games just to get the alerts on. Troy Moo, if you're out there, I'm watching you, mate. All right, let's go over to gold, talk about that a little bit coming into the market. Basically, the SPX is kind of doing its normal thing. We will look at the structure formations there, but I'm more interested in the Nasdaq because of the sell-off on Friday. I really want to see why that's happening. I think it's because a few people are starting to pick possibly Biden wins, and they're trying to price that up. So gold here is testing and starting to move back up due to the dollar weakness. And this is the good news for gold bulls. We might see that 1920 come under resistance and under fire very soon. And this is the key fight here. Sometimes you have key areas where you know that if the market gets to those zones, there's going to be a lot of fighting. There's going to be a lot of resistance and support. And if it gets through that zone, it instantly tells me, bang, we're bullish on gold. So at this point, we are not through the 1920, but we're having gold strength coming in here. And if we get through and close above this 1920, we've done a few things. Firstly, we've gotten through the wick. We've closed above the previous wick. We've also closed above, as Tim would tell you before, a huge amount of rejections that were very noticeable, like the BTC before. This is saying that this market respected the 1920 hugely and picked off that zone. The reason I picked 1920 is because if you go back and you have a look at the 4 hour on other charts, not on this Oanda data, but other data, you'll notice that there's so many body closes through that zone. Almost all of the body closes complete in the right area. They all complete at around this zone here. Even this one actually completes here. 4 hours can be different depending on the offset, but a lot of data has body closes all the way through the 1920. So if we break higher here and we get past the 1920, to me, that's incredibly bullish for gold. I would be not expecting it to really find that much weakness really up till the 1950, 1960 zone at that point. Further strength would be what I'm looking for. A close above the 2050, all of a sudden, the 2050 exponential moving averages act as support as well. Great zone. Great zone. So I really, really, really like what I'm seeing here on gold. And if it gets through that area, the 1920, I'd be probably bullish on it for the next couple of bucks. That's for sure. Dr. Horton says, what does dodgy mean? Well, janky means a bit like dodgy, and then shonky. There we go. Jai English has brought it out. Janky equals shonky. If you don't know what that means, oh well. Siddharth Muli says, fan of the elevator music in the background. Yeah, look, I've been trying to find some music. If anyone in the community knows, copyright-free kind of like background music is harder to find than I thought. Unfortunately, YouTube's pretty bad. Not only do they have way too many spam bots. By the way, has anyone seen all of the ladies that have been following me in the comment section? It's quite a lot now, it seems. About 30 a day. Along with the BTC scammers. But yeah, there's a huge amount of problems with YouTube right now. I feel bad for people that rely on it for their income, which we don't, but yeah, I do feel bad for them. David Moore says death metal music. I'm not sure about that, David. Probably get us a bit more hyped up, but certainly, yeah, it wouldn't be good. Free video game music. Yeah, the problem is a lot of it is copyrighted if you're not in the video game area. That is a bit of an issue. So yeah, gold looks like that. Silver, very, very similar. Except silver has more of a kind of area where if it gets through this 2450, I still think there's quite a lot of potential resistance. Obviously, body 26 is where you're looking at. Previous wicks, previous kind of little bit of support. 26 to 2650, I think is going to be resistance side. But we have a 2050 also just here that'll act as dynamic resistance. So silver's a little bit different. I'm a bit worried with silver to the bull side. I mean, it will move with gold, but I think gold has the stronger technical on that 1920 zone. Let's load up Dr. Copper. Since Dr. Horton's here, let's have a look at what Dr. Copper's telling us. Wow, rejecting the zone we wanted it to do. First time I've looked at this for the last couple hours. 1.25% down. Dr. Copper, respecting the level we wanted to see. That's excellent. Basically, what this is telling us, everybody, if you're a new member to the community or you haven't been following us for a while, Dr. Copper tells us the health, really, of the recovery. It's good for the first 12 to 18 months, maybe 2 years, of a recovery after, of course, a crisis period. Only use copper as a reference during that period of time. The rest of the time, it's pointless. But it's because there's a huge demand for this metal. So we actually saw it come back up, hit the 2.95 area, actually end up going a little bit higher than that, went to about 2.97. And now it's rejecting that into the market open. So we're going to go back over to the market futures in just a few minutes, but this is a bearish sign. This is a bearish sign for the markets overall. Specifically, if we now get low, if we break basically 2.8, I don't even think this 2.83, I don't think 2.8 is even going to hold it. Notoriously, when markets come back down and make new lows so close to previous supports, they just keep going. So copper at this stage looking a little bit bearish. We want to have bullish reversals here. It could go bearish, pick back up, but we do not want new lows if you're obviously a short-term S&P 500 bull. Long-term you'll be fine, but short-term not so good. Let's refresh these futures charts here. So we've dropped a couple of extra points here on the S&P. Maybe we will have some fireworks into the morning. We're about an hour off pre-open, and we have had a little bit of a pullback here. How's our dollar index going? Must pulled up a little bit now. Little bit of a pull up off that 93.50 zone. Bruce says, is this small bounce Trump fans or just a technical bounce that has barely broken Friday's close? This small bounce is futures trading, Bruce. Futures trading never has to make sense, eh? Look, it's a whole bunch of things. In Australia, if you look at our market, and I know a lot of people aren't always interested in other people's markets, but it's important to understand the world economy. We're moving because we have a budget tomorrow. So we'll look at the economic calendar for the week ahead, but we're moving because we have a budget tomorrow. If you have a look at our market here, decent amount of strength coming into the budget. Tuesday night, we have the federal budget, expect them to blow lots of money into the economy. Certain sectors will do well. At this stage, it looks like our banking sector is going to do okay. But overall, that's the bullish movement that happened for our market, I feel, in the Asian session. The rest of it is all just, who knows, a bit of mixture of positive attitudes and just general, kind of people trying to buy the dip in the futures section. The end is really what matters, and it usually does. Let's load up this news for the week ahead and just talk about a few things that we're going to see in the Asian session. So remember, China is in its festivities at the moment. China festivities equals multiple bank holidays, which means less liquidity in the Asian sessions. So we've got bank holiday, I believe it stops on Wednesday this week. Got our cash rate here in the RBA statement, that's the Reserve Bank of Australia, tomorrow. And then, of course, the annual budget release there as well. We've got some ECB news. And then our favorite friend, the printing press. Fed Chair Powell is speaking Wednesday, my time, 1:40 a.m. Not sure if I'll be doing a live stream for that one, but I think it will be an interesting speech. And obviously, the market will care a little bit about that. And then we have the meeting minutes coming out here Thursday, October 8th, 5 a.m. my time. If you're interested in getting your time on this, and I've set this for new daylight savings time in Australia, go to forexfactory.com/calendar, put it in, set your time zone, and you've got a pretty good economic calendar that gives you all of the results for the week ahead. So yeah, I think it's really about the Fed this week and of course about Trump's health. But overall, expect most of the news coming out about Trump's health to be basically positive. It's in Trump's best interest to make it positive. So what they're going to be saying is positive and what the media is going to be saying is negative. Or at least a lot of the media that doesn't like Trump. Something like that. The normal thing that goes on. Keep those questions coming in, by the way. We'll answer as much as we can. If you asked a question, I missed it before, definitely chuck that back in. Jacob says, if you guys want to retire, FedEx 300 calls, thank me later, he says. Send me a 10% cut of all your profits. General advice only from Jacob there, guys. General advice only. Be careful, Jacob. That is true, Jai. It would be great to get some, smash the like button if you do enjoy our stuff. I think it's more than 21 likes though, Jai. I'm reading them at 90, so I appreciate that from everybody out there. Siddharth says, Tom, can you share your trading equipment setup sometime? Do you have like 20 monitors? A great question, Siddharth. I'm going to answer this right now because I made the cardinal rule of thinking more monitors equals really good trading. I use a big screen, a TV, and a browser to tile multiple instances of TradingView. So, Siddharth, look, I might have pioneered the 12 screen monitor back in 2010. So I made a 12 screen. and I thought this is going to be the best. Basically went almost partially blind looking at 12 screen all day. But yeah, basically it doesn't really matter. You don't necessarily need that many screens. I'd probably recommend 2 to 3. And I really recommend that because it is good to have like a screener on one of your screens and maybe a news feed or a bunch of information or something like it, maybe an execution kind of platform on one. And then you've got your main analysis. But more screens never means better analysis. The only thing I'll say straight away is if you're doing analysis on your phone or on your tablet and then you're trading off that, you're doing yourself a disservice. That is a bad idea. Don't do that. I've trained a lot of people over the years, and I can tell you right now, everyone that trades with their phone over the long term fails. Why? Because they make rash decisions because they've got the phone on them at all times. So my suggestion would be do your analysis on a computer, do your analysis on bigger screens. Of course, have a very good set out strategy. And from a perspective of whether you need a fast computer or not, no. And if you're doing a bit of back testing of algorithms, sure. But I think you'll find that you'll put so much time into your algorithms that it'll end up not being worthwhile. Remember, there is a smart person out there, smarter than you, smarter than me, smarter than any of us probably, that's working for Goldman, that's working for JP Morgan, that has access to direct liquidity. What we can do as an edge is understand the psychology of the market. But in terms of algorithms, they're very, very, very difficult to get off the ground. And they have to generally, in my opinion, be based on price action based initially, and then you can bring indicators on top. If you're basing it on crosses of moving averages and stuff, it's not going to work out for you. It's just too simple. And unfortunately, a lot of these systems have been cracked. I think probably a few people out there can help the community here. How many of you have tried for a few years to run robots or buy robots or done anything else like that and then not had success? If you have done that, please let the community know. I know it might sound like, oh, why would I admit this? But yeah, it helps everyone out. Robots are very difficult to get off the ground. But in answer to the question, 2 to 3 screens is a good amount. I think that having a desktop or a Mac or something with a couple of screens, worthwhile doing. Faster real-time quotes is essential for wins for day traders, says Takalul Kevin. Absolutely, yeah, it's good to have fast kind of transactions, but overall, it depends what you're doing. If you're scalping, you obviously need razor fine speed, but you're not going to get the real pure direct liquidity general. You're just going to get something that they tell you. Little known fact, market makers actually do give you instant liquidity, especially ones that are B-booking you. So if you're scared of B-bookers, I wouldn't be scared of them because realistically, they don't put you in liquidity. They just let you instantly go into the market. Yeah. Sadar says, there are traders smarter than you, Tom. Bite your tongue. I absolutely do believe there are probably traders better than me, Sadar, for sure. That being said, you can only do what you can do, yeah? So yeah, I'll probably draw up maybe what I recommend as a good little kind of PC desktop setup at some point. I'll chuck that in the description below. Would everyone like that? Let me know if you'd like that. It won't be that expensive though. I'm not into spending $10,000 like I once was. I'm telling you, we bought 37 screens, set it up in a room, and I bought, 8 Dell 30 inches, which back then were $2,000 each. I did that off the profits of my first great trade. Instantly bought the Dell 30 inches. I thought, yes, this is going to work out. Those Dell 30 inches, they were good, but yeah, it didn't help me that much. Have I covered the pound US dollar? No, I haven't covered the pound US dollar yet. We'll definitely do that now. And we need to look at some pre-market as well. I'm just having a bit of a chat with everybody. A few people want to know a little bit about the computers. Absolutely. We'll set that up. New AMD computer coming out as well. AMD's got a new processor that looks pretty good. Seems to be kicking absolute ass compared to Intel. So we'll see whether that continues. Pound US dollar is pretty clear to me. Very similar to the pound yen. Series of higher lows. We've got a resistance break that's coming out, followed by, of course, a touch of the 20. This is looking pretty strong right now. I think it goes into the 1.3, maybe just before the 1.3, finds some resistance, and then a break close above 1.3 would be super bullish for pound. All of these things would be very bearish, of course, for US dollar overall. Break close above this 1.3, 10 cent psychological zone, 200 moving average on the 4-hour, all the things we like to see as TA kind of experts. And then we see a pullback into that zone, and then we bullet. And we bullet probably to at least a 1.32. Notice how we've got this resistances over here, and then some resistances that broke through it. So what I do in that case is I box it up. So I talk quite a lot about boxing up things, and I box up stuff effectively to get a bit of an idea of an average area that I want to set alerts for. So what I want to do is I then set alerts for these areas. I don't draw stupid boxes like that, but I want to set alerts for these areas. And then at the bottom, I set the alert, and then I watch it on the smaller time frames. And I do this because my target is somewhere in this zone. I don't know exactly whether it's going to be this low or this high, but what I don't want to do is let my profits disappear on me. So at least I'm going to track it up there by probably a 20 moving average. And I'm going to look at price action. If price action makes something like that, and we've got a peak, a trough, a lower peak, and then a breakthrough on the smaller time frames, I've got to get out of the trade because it's right in that profit zone where I'm wanting to get out of this trade. I'm wanting to get out of this thing. So let's have a look at the market futures in terms of coming in. We'll use this Webull thing to get the pre-market here. Webull seems like a decent little platform. Not one that I use, but looks all right. I'm sure a few people use this, and Robinhood and a few of the others out there. Some great free tools that are being sent by the community as well. I'm compiling a bit of a list of things that I can share with everybody on that. So pre-market, really one of the big fallers. We obviously have it 7.38% off on Tesla. So we'll look at that in just a moment. 415, so it's coming up to the 420. We actually had a close below that 420 support zone on Friday. 1.42%, so not a very strong recovery, but of course that's still $5 on Tesla right now. Other notables in this list, all the real favorites, things like, of course, Nvidia's up there, it looks like. These are the bigger companies, so I've got 140 billion plus here. What's down? Let's have a look what's down pre-market. So AT&T, pretty sick stock, 28.68 is very low on that. Pepsi got a little bit hit on Friday. Toyota not doing so well either, and Procter. Overall though, if we have a look at the changes on the Friday close, it was still led by Tesla, Netflix, Adobe, Nvidia, all of these pairs. I'm excited to see whether we get further discounts on Google, and of course, Amazon and some of the other favorites. Because I still think that when you're talking about doing well over the long term, you need to be thinking about what businesses are doing. Businesses are all moving online now. Obviously, Amazon and Netflix and all of those are the first easy picks. But there's a lot of software companies that are doing well. And I think there's going to be a lot of innovation in the next couple of years to do with these businesses moving online. So tech sector is still very much on the charts. Even though it's a little bit out of favor, it's just rotating out right now. And it will rotate back in. Joel says, market seems slow for now, maybe waiting for more news. I think it's waiting for liquidity. I think a lot of uncertainty coming into the markets right now. No one really has any idea what the futures bring. Probably get heated up in the first hour. We should see a little bit of move on the Monday morning. And then, of course, Fed and FOMC meeting minutes a little bit later this week will certainly kick volatility up. Nasdaq is negative. So it's moving down, but we're 0.57 up from what I'm seeing on the futures here. From Meowdy there. Christina says a movie screen and a Herman Miller chair. Yes, Herman Miller chair is good. Herman Miller chair is one of my favorite things to, of course, have as a trader. Good chair, it pays off. Odd US dollar from Jai English, please, Tom. Yeah, we'll look at this. A few currencies worthwhile looking at because we're seeing those movements. Oh, never use the Kraken data. What do we know? The Kraken data ain't no good. There's the Oanda data, and much, much better. So US dollar, in this case, we'll go to the daily first. And actually, we'll go a bit top-down analysis here. Let's have a look at the top-down analysis. Worthwhile noting, what a buy zone, hey? 70 cents, just above 70 cents on the odd dollar. Everyone can see this one, I'm sure. Previous resistances, beautiful zone, double zero, just like we were saying there on the pound US dollar. If it hit that 1.300, that's a 10-cent decimal, hit the 20 moving average and found buying pressure. No surprises there. So very, very key. We're getting up there. There's nothing really, I think, stopping you on the weekly. So straight away, we just know it came off the 20. We're stuck between two moving averages. The euro, the dollar index, all of these things are stuck between daily moving averages, the 20 and the 50. And basically, it's been compressed. It's almost like a coil or spring in that zone. So there's nothing really other to note there. We've got a 2050 cross on the 4-hour time frame. Market found dynamic support there. Little bullish hammer here. Haven't seen follow through yet because it's waiting for the market. Probably think 72 close above will bull into 72.50. Why do I say that? The odd US dollar has been moving in 50-cent increments and really respecting it. So you see bullish movement here above the 72 handle, close, maybe pulls back, finds some resistance, or finds some support on the resistance, and then moves to the 72.50. New high, new peak, all of those types of things. So odd dollar at this stage looking relatively bullish. A close below the 71.64 though probably puts pressure back down all the way down here on the lows. Pretty big moves each way I would expect on dollar index pairs this week ahead. Let's have a look at Tesla. Let's bring up that chart. A lot of people following Tesla. Obviously got the 450 handle up here. Pretty decent resistance line through the 450. And we've got that 420 zone as well. Right around the 420 zone was finding pretty decent support previously. Go down to probably a 1-hour chart. It's the best place to look for on Tesla. The reason I say the 1-hour chart is because it's really moving fast. It's moving fast each way. We've got to go down. We've got to be nimble. We also need to know that when Tesla breaks, it's not one to look for conservative entrances. If it shorts off, it doesn't come back. Look at this nature. It came back later, but when it shorted, if you were looking at scalps and day trades, notice it continues the flow-on effect through. When it breaks and closes above here, it doesn't quite come back to what you'd hope. So the 420 body closes around here. We'd expect usually the market would break, close through, pull back, and then sell off. So knowing the beast that is Tesla, when it breaks and closes, it keeps going. That's what it does. So it certainly does. 420 is what we would expect it to add as resistance. So it's coming into resistance pre-market. Close below the 420, coming back up, 3 moving averages around this area. So it's going to open right on resistance, where of course last week we opened right on support and found bullish movement. Interesting to see Tesla opening right on the resistance. What if it comes back down? Well, of course, we really don't have any further supports here for quite a while. If we have a look at the 4-hour, I think it's probably key here to find the previous supports. Probably the 200 moving average. Support 1, support 2, makes sense for it to be support 3. Remember, self-fulfilling prophecies on Tesla is what we're looking for. The psychology of retail traders dictates that there will be some buying pressure you would expect at this point here. And what is that point? We'll move the line down for everyone. Have a quick look. About 378, probably 377. So probably 380 to be safer. Because of course it's going to move up because it's lagging and it's catching up right now. So probably around 380 we expect Tesla to have some support. That's some of the things that I go into. Finding the self-fulfilling prophecy of multiple moving averages being held. Once it's held twice, so 1, 2, it becomes, the third one becomes quite likely to at least find some buying pressure. Go to the room here for quite a few of the questions. Linus says, thanks you for sharing the move and stop loss method. No worries. Remember, being market adaptive with your stop losses is always the key. Try not to use fixed stop losses. Fixed stop losses, rookie mistake. Use market adaptive stop losses. Abbas says some kit you could take international, please. Good point, Abbas. I will definitely do a video on some things that I would take with me if I was trading on the fly. I don't really fly that much. Usually when I fly, I try not to look at the charts, but I will talk about that. I think really any kind of laptop is always good, but a lot of people make these fancy kind of ideas that you need crazy tools to trade. You don't need crazy tools, but what you do need is clarity on your charts. So try to keep them clean. If your charts look like this, and it's kind of like a zoomed in, like let me just draw what I consider an insane chart. So if I ever do mentoring with someone, this is what I don't allow. So this is how often people load up their screens. And I'm sure we've all been there. Here's your price action. Indicator 1, indicator 2, indicator 3, indicator 4, and of course indicator 5. You can't see the price action. You've just got moving. And then on the price action, you've got alligators and Bollinger Bands and everything. So there's 4 or 5 indicators, and then there's this compressed, crazy looking price action up the top. So what do you think the first thing I tell you to do is? Go back to this. Just the price. I don't even want to see moving averages on it. I don't want to see nothing. Go back to the price first. That's the best way. Do you need to pay for interactive brokers, Jai says? No, I don't. Well, interactive brokers are just a broker. Jai, you should be able to just open an account with them. They might have some paid feeds. I haven't used them in a while. Their software is really bad, if I remember rightly. It was really, really, really archaic looking. Buzzblad says, Tom, do you see any advantage with MT4 over CTrader or no? Just asking because I use CTrader. I do not see any advantage for MetaTrader 4, if anyone doesn't know what that is. It's more of a currency, commodities, and indices kind of platform. I don't see any advantage for MT4 anymore. And I did almost all my trading when I was currency trading on MT4. It's old. It was built in 2002. And prior to what people believe, it doesn't directly feed into liquidity. So I think the CTrader is fine. I'm liking this Trading View though. If you're a bit of a technical analysis buff, check out Trading View. It's good because you can use one program that's constantly innovating and improving with its tools, and then you can use all of your execution through Pepperstone or through whoever your broker is, but you can do your analysis in one place with all of your charts, your stocks, your commodities, your indices, everything. Just catching up with a few of these questions here. Quite a lot of great questions coming in. So let's look around the markets as well. What have we got going on now? So dollar index, let's see if it's strengthening or weakening again. It is a big thing for us, the dollar index. Built-in latency? Yeah, it certainly does. Can we look at the FedEx chart? Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. Jeong, we'll look at the FedEx chart. FedEx it's interesting when we read a lot of the messages from the chat and from you guys out there. Like there's certain stocks that become hot and then everyone's talking about them, yeah? And and that's just like FedEx a few weeks ago broke out. We talked about it. Somebody was in this and they were looking at it bullish, and it was quite a nice little chart getting through this zone. Now it's on a rocket ship. The problem is it's pretty far away from a few things that start to worry me. And one of those is the 20 moving average. And I've said this a few times. Whenever you move really far away from a 20 moving average or a mean reversion average, we want to look back over price and we want to understand whether it generally pulls back to that zone and whether it's moved too fast, too quick. So FedEx has hit basically what I would call resistance. It's hit the key area. It's hit a zone where I'd be like, wow, this is a bit of a scary kind of area for FedEx. We've reached an area of 260. That's pretty much previous highs. I'm pretty sure this is the one. And we're so far away from the 20. On the last bull run up, we pretty much ran through the 20 heaps of times in the pullback. On the bull run up before that, we ran through the 20 heaps of times. When it moved really far away, it started consolidating and then pulled back. So what I'd be looking for in FedEx is if we saw a lot of price action the way we are seeing it right now, if it turns bearish and gets through especially a daily 20 here, I think it's got blow off potential where it could come down quite hard. And this could be unique to the market. It may have nothing to do with it. Notice how it's been holding this 4 hour. So probably the 4 hour is the key for you. 4 hour 20 moving average generally held through. We've got a lot of winding, coiling market action going on here as well. So really, if you want to play it more to the bull side, well, obviously if the market, let's get rid of that zone. Obviously if the market bulls past this 260, that's a lot of coil. There's a lot of pent up demand going on there for the bull side. But if it breaks closes low, that's very bearish for this particular chart. It's already run very heavily away from that 20. So I think it's actually at the time. We're going to revisit this. I'm going to write this down. We're going to look at FedEx this week in our live analysis and possibly even a video, because I want to show everybody how this thing interacts in the future. Good area, good interesting zone. Very critical for you right now with FedEx. Very critical. Siddharth Morley says price action is everything. Tom is dead on about compressing your views area with indicators. Yeah, bring your indicators in once you've made your price action decision. I don't talk too much about indicators because I know what they're going to be doing based on the price action. They always show you the same signals time and time again. David says it has built-in latency. So this is David Moore. Now, I believe, David, you've been trading for a long time as well. So you probably were trading even when MetaTrader 4 was first introduced. So yeah, absolutely. Time to buy puts, it sounds like, says David. Joel says, nah, Interactive Brokers is really nice. It's just that they look dated, but it's really powerful platform. Low fees, good tools. So Interactive Brokers, yes, it has very cheap fees. And yes, they've got good tools. And yes, they offer a lot of platform stuff. I won't go any further into it than that, but yeah, they do offer quite a lot of things. So let's have a look at the futures chart now. Quickly talk about what's going on. So we're basically hovering around this 33.59 on the S&P to 33.60. Let's get that music going on again there. Get a bit of the tunes. 33.60 kind of coming into the market open. VIX still hovering around the same zone. So a bit of a slow start. We're half an hour away now from open overall. Definitely take a few more kind of, I guess, requests from the room, from the community there on things that they want to look at. So we looked at FedEx. I think it's at a really critical point. 260 break high, break and close, key for FedEx. Hopefully that makes sense to you as well. What other ones would you like to look at? First two charts, we'll look at them. Let's check it out. David says he was a dealer on MT4. Well, David, that's good. You got a lot to help the community with. Now, there was a stock I was meant to be looking at, the desalination. So bring that one back forward if you're still here. We should be looking at that. You want to look at Bitcoin? Yeah, I think that's fair. Bitcoin's been pretty good recently. Let's load up Bitcoin, US dollar. So we're obviously seeing a little bit of weakness in the USD overall. Bitcoin's probably really about the daily chart a lot to me. So as Tim mentioned before, a lot of wick rejections off that 10,000 zone. Beautiful area. I love that area. Keep going on about it, but it's just because it's a great study for the power of accumulation based on huge amounts of wick rejection. Very, very powerful area. Bitcoin here moving up. At this stage, not really giving us a strong signal either way on this time frame. Where do we want to see it break? I've got an alert here for myself for about 11,000, 1150. Now I've set that alert because I think if price action gets through there, we get a quick fill or at least a bullish momentum fill, potentially upwards of 12,000. So that's where you kind of start to look for opportunity. I only like key zones. If it's not in my key zone, I don't care. So my key zone is I want to see it break close above here. Now, some people would say, well, why wouldn't you buy it here if you think it's going there? I don't know. I don't know if it's going there. I only know that when a break closes past key zones, that there's a higher degree of percentage certainty that it goes to fill the next area. And that's what you're looking for. Big difference. Big difference. Meowdy says short-term bull on the Nasdaq. I'm not really a bull on the Nasdaq till it gets past the 11.6. I mean, I'm super long-term bull, medium bull, absolutely. I've mentioned so many times in this channel, S&P 500 hits a new high, next 12 months generally puts on 9%. That's bullish. That's statistically likely. The problem with the Nasdaq is the big FANG stocks. If the Democrats win, not 100% sure on this, but they probably will try to tax those big companies, and it will not be necessarily super bullish for those ones. All right, so we've got a few of these requests coming in. We'll take a few of them. So we've got IVR. I'll take your one, Jack, because I know you mentioned it so many times before. And we need to have a look at, we'll definitely look at Amazon regardless. And we'll look at Workhorse because I've been asked that one heaps of times. So yeah, for Bitcoin, for me, it's just stuck in a range on the daily, onto the 4 hour, above a whole bunch of moving averages. That's obviously bullish. Looks like it's got bullish movement here, similar to a lot of those other US dollar pairs, all the way back up to the 10.9 zone. There's a lot of area it just got through. Got through the 20, got through the 50, got through the 200 simple moving average as well on the 4 hour timeframes. That all now acts as dynamic support. So it's looking relatively bullish. It's not really a strong signal for me, but yeah, that's really the kind of zone. I'm still thinking more about that 11,150 area. That's what I'm looking at here. Load up Amazon now, because Amazon's always cool to look at, always interesting. All of them still at the supports. If we look at Apple, we look at Google, we look at any of the FANG stocks, they're all testing the exact same supports. Previous resistance around this 31, kind of 30 zone, previous supports, multiple moving averages all sitting around here. We're looking at 31.44 open. So right around the right area. Close low below here instantly exposes further selling. Notice when Amazon has gotten underneath this zone in the past, e.g. here, what do we see? Selling into the 2900. This could be very pivotal for Amazon. If it sells and rejects this zone today and finds further selling pressure, it's going to get under all those moving averages and all of a sudden try to gap fill the zone at least to 3,000, I think. That's still 100 plus points, even after the confirmation close. It's all very possible, and there's definitely potential there on the charts. And if we look at Apple, very, very similar thing. Notice all the moving averages, all sitting at the same area. Previous double bottom resistance becomes support, compressing price around this area. We've got a 114 open handle. Again, closes below this zone, back into the 105s for Apple. So we are at a point where the Nasdaq could go relatively bearish if we see the right price action today, tomorrow. So I said I'd load up Workhorse. Let's do that now. Wasn't this the company that I looked at and was like kind of vertical? Yeah, it was. So I did look at this for you. I remember this one. It still maintains the same thing. It likes this 2150 zone. We've got a 50 that'll touch with that previous support body close, and a 50 will be at the same area. We mentioned this one, I believe, last week. Got a 2050 cross here. I do not like these kind of stocks, but there's certainly some buying pressure here at 20. There's a lot of previous market resistance. So the 20 to 2150 zone seems to be a zone or an area that you're looking for lightning bolt action. You don't just pick those levels. What you do is you wait for it to come down, and then of course find a base, either accumulate and channel, and then break out above. Beautiful buying experience then. We'll have a look at Intel to show you what that kind of looks like. Or we wait for it to come down, quickly alert that, come down, move up, create a peak, create a higher trough, and what we call the lightning bolt. shows momentum in the market. You don't want to necessarily pick and drop all of your money on just like a random dip. You often want to see the market find that level. Docu, we'll check that out as well. Docusign, another pretty popular stock at the moment. Looks like a crazy ass Head and Shoulders, doesn't it? Left shoulder here and right shoulder. Instantly that kind of comes to mind. Everyone, what do you think of this? Wow. I assume that was news results followed by massive sell-off. Buy the rumor, sell the fact there on Docu. But we've got a decent little left shoulder here. We've got pretty much an equal right shoulder potential and a head. If it sells off this zone, got a 225 handle open, so right on the right shoulder. If we start to see selling, look at this support. This support's crazy on this stock. Crazy and very good. What a great technical level here. Multiple supports all the way through that area. Now, if we saw this Head and Shoulders play out and it came down, that is showing monstrous blow off. The other thing I don't like about this stock right now is the fact that it did this. It moved up heavily, and then when it sold off in 3 days, basically what looks like well over 20% of the stock. That's never really a great sign. Let's take a look at what the trend line would be showing us. If this was a crazy Head and Shoulders with the pointiest head ever, wow, that would be showing all the way back. That'd be brutal. But yeah, 187 for the bulls. You want that level to hold. At this stage, it's looking relatively bullish. It breaks and closes above 228. You'd have to expect it to go to at least 250, if not 275, because then it would be breaking all of the bearish sentiment. Critical point here for Docu. Joel says the direction of the market ain't really clear right at this moment. Looking a bit bearish though. Yeah, the direction of the SPX is really, really tough at the moment. Let's go to the US 500 and do our breakdown coming into the market open. So we're only about 21 minutes away from the market open, and it is difficult with the direction because, as somebody said before, there could be an inverse Head and Shoulders here. We've got key resistances kind of starting to play out. We'll go through quite a lot of the scenarios now. Do a bit of a deep dive, I think, in the US 500 coming into the open. Here's a good one. Lord McGaver says, hey, may I ask what is your opinion on Auto Chartist and Trading Central? Can't talk about Trading Central, but Auto Chartist it's a tool that's been around ever since I've started investing and trading. Look, it shows you, it's a good for maybe showing you ideas that you hadn't been looking up with, but never trust its chart patterns. Make your own and do your own analysis. Incredibly important. Incredibly important. Jacob says, Tom, one more thing about FedEx that everyone forgets about. They will be distributing the COVID vaccines. Yeah, look, there could be a lot of bullish momentum there. I'm just talking about the price action. So I think it's run very hard with maybe that kind of news. Also, with the holiday season is upcoming and new iPhones, new gaming consoles will be shipping will be huge. I think it's a lot of that's been priced in, Jacob. So obviously, a lot of those moves and the big movement of FedEx was due to that. But you're not wrong. That's the thing with fundamentals, is if you're before it and you see it before, then you're a genius and you're going to get on the train. But if you do it when everyone's talking about it, often it gets packed into price pretty quickly and then overshoots what the real expectation should be. We will look at Slack a little bit later, Linus. We'll look at Slack into the pre-market as well. So let's do this deep dive on US 500. Let's go through an actual top-down analysis here of technicals and what we're kind of seeing. Well, firstly, monthly closes. Always good. If you're even trading a 5-minute chart, I don't care. Look at the 1-month charts. It's very important to understand what the big boys are doing. Nice pickup of previous close highs. Made sense why that 3250, 3200 level was picked up. Straight away, we see that when we look at the monthly. We won't spend any more time on that. 20 moving average, mean reversion was tested. Talked about that a lot on the channel. And if you want to know more about that, definitely subscribe if you're new to this stream right now. But this zone here was respected, bounced off, had a bullish kind of hammer, pin bar, whatever you want to call it, decent amount of bullish intention, and then the weekly obviously closed up. Now this will look very different than the SPX. So remember, do your analysis generally on the SPX, as it looks very different in terms of gap opens and closes. If we go down to the daily, then things start to get very interesting. So a few people mentioned before, have we started to see an inverse head and shoulders potentially starting to set up? So we certainly could be left shoulder, head, beginnings of right shoulder. So basically this is the beginnings of the right shoulder. Now obviously we have two choices here. I think the best thing would be a neckline between the 3400 and the 3420, and I'd want to see a little bit more price action around here on the right shoulder. We need to be a bit more defined, start to get nice pullbacks in that zone. If that happened and it broke through, super bullish everyone, super bullish everyone on the US 500. Very well thought out pattern if that was to occur. It's certainly only the beginning of it. Everything could change, but we want to see more kind of movement here on the right shoulder, a bit more compression, and then a break of that 3420, 3430 zone. For now, nothing really going on there. We are above the two moving averages, the 20 and the 50 here. I'm going to move it to the SPX so we don't get clouded by weird futures action, so we can see the real moving averages here, and we can see that the price is in between them. Let's go to the 4 hour. Check that out. And the 4 hour is finding a bit of weakness coming in at the end of the close, but clearly very defined 3420 resistance. This is why we use the real market. Very defined area. 3420, previous resistances all the way through. Beautiful zone, beautiful area. We're in that kind of weird point at the moment. We hit the central pivot. We talked about that before, the 33 kind of 80 area. And now we're bearing back down. A close below the 3320 zone, 3330 zone, I think opens instantly back up for a 3200 test. Watch the market fill areas. Goes down, closes through, moves back down to the low, comes up, finds resistance here. Potentially bears get back into control. But if the bears lose control here, could be looking at inverse head and shoulders, long to might be even higher than highs. And that may happen, of course, after the election, may happen before, I don't know. MSNBC reporting Trump might leave the hospital today. Really? I'll answer that question, Leo, probably next time about the log scale stuff. He really wants to get out, doesn't he? He really wants to get out of there. Let's have a look 15 minutes into the open, into the pre-market here, and till we see the open, we've got a 3361 S&P still really sitting around the same zone. Let's have a look at the news. So these are the news. Let's just do a quick search here and find Trump news. So Wall Street set to jump, stimulus hopes. I love these topics always. Hints of Trump hospital discharge. Is that even possible? That he's gonna, I mean, he might discharge himself, but is something else going on? Like most people that get this at his age usually get a little bit sicker. We'll see what happens. Interesting. Get rid of that song. Okay, let's look at the pre-market as well coming in. Pre-market overall, Tesla now up 1.95. Was only up about 1.3 before. We've seen a bit of banks coming back into focus here. JP Morgan, Bank of America, similar to Australia, strong bank day. Overall financials looking bullish. Down market now only looking at AT&T and Toyota basically being flat. So we have had a little bit of a swing towards the bullish side here coming into the open. Remember, the first 15 minutes is always really, really interesting. So we'll jump now back over to the US 500. Then we've clearly got some zones there. The 33, 30, 33, 20 zone to the bear side if it breaks under. and of course the 34.20 zone to the bull side if it breaks over. Two areas I'd be looking at this week. So here's the futures. Go down to the 15-minute chart, start trapping it up a little bit if it has been trapping in a range. Guess we're probably just looking at a close to a new high on the 15 minutes. Can we get above this 33.77 zone? And to the low point, wow, it's going to be tough. I mean, we'll just draw the one that we have, which is the 33.60. So we'll trap that area. We'll load up the second chart now. Let's load up our Nasdaq on the right-hand side, probably the one I'm watching more. Euro just breaking out here. It looks like it's closing up higher. Euro going a little bit bullish. Means probably dollar index down. Dollar index is 93.52, testing support into the open. All right, we'll go back over to light here. Load up the US 100. Get these a little bit bigger. Another good thing about these charts is you can pretty much do whatever you feel like with them. Set these to 24s. Come into the pre-market open. Booty Sauce says, to be honest, what is really going to happen if he leaves the hospital? I think it's the ramifications of how he gets to play out the COVID situation. And therefore, you know, maybe distribute or do difference to, I guess, like whether he gets voted in or not. I haven't commented on Square, Ivan, but yeah, Square is always looking very bullish moving into the opens, and it's just been a very, very popular stock recently. So we'll load up the Square chart now as well and have a look at that one. We're about 10 minutes, 11 minutes away from the overall open. Definitely pretty keen to see what happens today in the first 15 minutes to half an hour of trade. So Square still putting resistance pressure on the high here. We're up 2% at the 173. So we're going to open at a new high, theoretically. Very bullish for Square. Let's have a look at its pullbacks recently as well on the daily and weekly. So weekly, it never got back to the 20. It's just been so bullish. When it closed through this rejection candle and it got above there, that is very bullish as well. And overall, could we be looking at a $200 price tag on Square? Remember, if you're in this long, usually what a market will do the first time it goes towards a key zone is it will get just before it hits that $200. It will find a little bit of resistance and it will reject that area. So that's usually what will happen. But Square's looking bullish right now. From a price point perspective, what do you do about getting into these types of things if you want to trade breakouts? Well, you basically have to let it close above. Let it open, close above, come back down, retest the resistances, and then you take it up. But you also want to look at how it recently broke through. So here's a resistance that got closed above. It gapped up, closed above, came back down, retested. So you know it's possible on this potential trade here that it comes back and retests. Something like Tesla, when it goes through, it doesn't come back. So it is possible on Square that when it breaks, it comes back. But previously, before that point, it wasn't really coming back, was it? Bit of a catch-22 on this one. It's obviously more of a gamble, I guess, if you want to get into that type of thing. Double bottom coming through, though, was important. Bit of strength there for Square. Josh says, good luck, everyone, today. Absolutely, Josh. Hope everyone does very, very well. Jacob says he waited to go to hospital after market close on Friday to protect the markets. Yeah. Thanks, Siddharth. Appreciate that. 20, 50 EMA, 200 SMA. Kim, interesting. ARK Invest came out with a bullish case for Square 6 days ago. Okay, yeah. People are starting to move on ARK. They're like following a little bit. Jack, yes, I know. I owe you IVR. $77. super chatted $4 for a coffee. Thanks very much, Sandola. I definitely need it today. I'm starting to feel this daylight savings in Australia already. An hour difference. We're now looking at 12:30 a.m. market opens for the US. It's going to get worse too. Yeah. I owed you IVR. I'll do it right now. Let's have a quick look at the VIX coming into the open. Are we testing that 30 yet? I don't think we would be, because of course we've got a decent amount of bullish pressure coming in. We'll let that chart load. So IVR, pretty big request here. Price action overall, what has been happening here? So we'll go to the weekly first. Take a look at what's happened. So it's been relatively bearish. I mean, obviously came in super bearish. It's a bit terrifying, this looking chart here. Go into the daily. Okay, a bit of accumulation here. Not a huge amount of volume coming through. Obviously worthwhile considering volume analysis and these types of things. So yeah, I think $3 is clearly the point of resistance. Now we have previous supports all the way through here. Psychological resistance looks like 297 is actually the go. I'd want a daily, or at least, sorry, a 4-hour close above that zone. 4-hour close above that 297 is going to show bullish intention, and that's coming off a bit of a base as well. Where does it go to after that? Looks like 320 is going to become resistance, and somewhere up here at probably this 350 area as well. Previous supports, previous resistances. Clearly a psychological level though at 3. 3 is the zone for this particular chart there, Jack. Just instantly looking at it, that's what I'm thinking. And the reason why is just the multitude of supports. It closed through, but that was still the bearish intent. And then it found support twice after that. Bit of resistance, and it's just found resistance before it. So I think 3 is the clear level for me, then 320, and then into 350 where previous resistances and supports seem to be. That's the IVR breakdown. Over to the VIX, 28.9 handle, 4.67 up into the pre-market. So we've still got a lot of volatility in this market, even though the market's holding or at least bulling into the open. Dollar index coming under further pressure. Let's look at that dollar index, load that chart up. Wow, it's a bit of pressure coming onto this dollar. I should do that. I'll make like a bull bear sounder. Yeah, a lot of improvements to be done to the stream. Definitely looking at doing a bunch of improvements when I get time this week. So we're going to be doing a whole bunch of new stuff. New music, new overlays, new software. You name it, I'm thinking of doing a whole bunch of things. I want to bring a bit of excitement to the trading technical analysis world as much as we can. Jacob says, never bet against ARK. Learnt that the hard way. Siddharth says, I say VIX breaks the channel up. Paul Pham, Tom, you have any thoughts on Mesoblast? Yeah, I did talk about Mesoblast the other day in the comments section, I think. Might have even I don't think I responded to you. Mesoblast, Australian company. It usually underrepresents in news, and obviously it's in a bit of a blow off at the moment. Might have a look at that after the market open, if you remind me then. So yeah, dollar index coming under the 93.50. I think this is pivotal right now to see what the sentiment of the markets is. Very, very important zone here, 93.50. Going to be watching that come into the market open. 5 minutes away now. Let's have a look at what's moving into the market pre-open. So what is good, what is not good? Toyota now down 0.52. AT&T still not doing well. Procter basically flat. Notable market movements up. Still Tesla. It's a little bit down though. Oh, that's 2% high. So we've got 422 handle. I expect, remember, around that 420 to be acting as some resistance from the bear side. JP Morgan as well. Banks overall looking bullish. Might check out one of those charts as well in just a few minutes. JP Morgan, Bank of America still could be showing a decent amount. The thing with banks is that the first 3 to 6 months into recovery, they usually outperform the other stocks in the market, and then they do terrible. Pavel, welcome to the trading community, the TC crew. Thank you very much, Pavel. Hope you enjoy the emojis. Definitely want to see some of these emojis out there. We're going to be upgrading those as well this week and upgrading the logo as well. It'd be awesome. Hopefully we can make a great community and get everyone helping each other on these chats. Jacob says, Tom, what I meant by is I've shorted some of their holdings such as Tesla and Square and got burnt. Never try to short those long trends. If you have like a stock and it's moving up, always put a 20 moving average on it. And if it's holding that 20 moving average each time, just don't short the damn thing. As soon as it does the 1-2, as I like to call it, do not short that, because every single time it's got so much latent bullish pressure underneath it. We don't want to be doing that. 3 minutes off the open. Let's load up our charts and get ready. Let's get ready to rumble on these charts. So I think for the Nasdaq, I'm going to be looking for a little bit more today. I'm going to be looking for a little bit more, hopefully bearish pressure coming in here for the Nasdaq. I wouldn't mind getting some cheaper prices on some tech stocks. Thank you again, Pavel, for joining the community. Great to see you there. David and Pavel using them. You reckon stonks are up as well, do you, Pavel? I think a very, very nice level here on the 15-minute chart. Resistance at the 11,377. Everyone can probably see that area. And for the support, we seem to have a little bit of a trend line. And I hate trend lines, but I'll draw it up anyway. I'll try to draw this to the bodies. We'll see whether we get it on the bodies instead. We'll go through these two bodies here. We'll draw that up as our lines coming into the market open. Not loving that. See how it instantly becomes a thing? You're like, ooh, that looks pretty good. Problem is, that's the thing with trend lines. You can say that looks like a great line I've drawn there. Doesn't mean much. Got a lot of banding coming into the market open as well. We're now only a few seconds away, 1 minute away from, of course, the open. Oops. Bring that over here. Got our bell ready to go. Okay, let's do the countdown. It's only 40 seconds to go into the market open. Dollar index still putting pressure on the low side. Probably the story of the day so far. Bit of bullishness. But the first 15 minutes will probably show us the direction of the start of the day, and then we should see the direction, of course, at the close of the day. I'll be focusing on the close a lot. I want to know what the close does today, probably more than most. The reason why is because we saw that Friday sell-off in the FANG stocks. Was that just a concern, or was it something else? All right, here comes the bell. Whoa. Don't know what just happened then on the screen. All right, we've got the bell open here. S&P 500 instantly up a few handles there. Quickly over to the market. What have we seen opening on the market? So got a 422 here on Tesla. It looks like Nvidia's open relatively okay as well. Let's get those percentages up on the big stocks. Tesla still 1.6, JP Morgan 1.5, Nvidia 1.33. Starts to move. Let's have a look at the overall market indices. So we're starting to see maybe a little bit of bearish pressure on the Nasdaq. Come on, get down. We're got a new wish, yeah? Crypto up. Crypto's always up. Dollar index coming off 0.1. So it's actually at 93.52 now. So the first couple of minutes here are going to be key. Do we get resistance touches of this 11,377 and 3,377, 277? So instantly into that point. Does it even care? Does it find some selling pressure here from the scalpers? Oh, the scalpers made a point. Let's see if that holds. Bullish ahead of Fed talk. Generally, yes. Whenever we've seen Jerome Powell come out, it's often been bullish, like kind of buy into his talk and then sell after his talk. That's happened quite a few times. This week could be a little bit different, but generally, yes, that's what happens. 40-second lag, says Ivan. Yeah, there's probably a little bit of lag on today's stream, unfortunately. I've got it on 20-second delay, but it might be a little bit behind. Dollar index just got smashed. You're right there. 93.46 now on dollar index. That's obviously going to push these markets a little bit higher. 93.46. We see that over here. 93.45 now. That's not good for dollar index bulls. We wouldn't want to see it hold down there. We need to see weak rejections off that zone. So as becomes customary a little bit here, we've usually had bullish pressure into the market open, followed by pretty wildish kind of 15 minutes. And then if it continues on bullish in the next 15 minutes after that, often the first couple of hours have been bullish. And then the end of the day, the last 1 to 2 hours have been the bearish side of that day. DXY dropping, 93.43 now. Let's have a quick look at that chart. 93.43. Ooh, it's brutal. Dollar index getting absolutely destroyed. And the problem is now is, you know, we've basically got through this 93.50. If we close below that, do we find any support through any of this kind of weird market structure? I still think 92.80 is the clear level of support next time. You know what I think this is? I think that everyone was thinking it. So we had the 93.80, 94 close, and I noticed if you look up retail sentiment and you look up what people are doing, everyone was turning bullish. Every single person was turning bullish. I don't like that. I want to be doing the thing with the price action where most of the retail community are doing the opposite thing. And that's what you should want as well. Look up daily sentiment trackers that track kind of the general sentiment of the retail crowd. Because you can bet your bottom dollar, whatever the general sentiment of the retail crowd is, the market often does the opposite. That's why I like going counter to that, especially when the price action is showing you great signal strength. If you like trading and you see huge amounts of bearish kind of feeling and you have a strong break close above, you know the market's going to keep going long because it's the way it is. So we'll go back over to the charts here. Seeing a little bit of a rejection here on the S&P. Still not really out for the Nasdaq. I'm watching the Nasdaq the most today because I want to see what happens with these FANG stocks. I know there's recovery in the retail, the REITs, and of course the utilities and other S&P 500 sectors. But this one's the one I'm looking at, this Nasdaq. Let's see if we can get through this 11.3 kind of 80.79 zone. Pavel says Trump was demanding to return to the White House Sunday. CNN said so. Very high change change of today's discharge. Yeah, I'm sure he wants to get back there very quickly. Even if he's super sick, he'll want to get back there. He wants to show very strong hand here, if possible. Where do you check the daily sentiment from Hemavol? If you search daily sentiment trackers or daily sentiment, maybe like US dollar index, you'll find in Google quite a few. As I said, I'm bringing together a bit of a resource and hopefully I'll be reducing or kind of producing another video coming up soon that'll have a bunch of other free resources. I've already got a part 1 up on the channel. If you haven't watched that, definitely go check out free resources. Shows you a couple of great websites. But we'll be doing a part 2 for free resources as well. In terms of sector opens, what have we got here? Let's have a look at the one-day sector opens. Tell you which sectors are doing well and which ones aren't. So it looks like right now we have XLE doing quite well, which is the energy sector. So the energy sector is doing all right. We have XLB coming in second, which is materials. I'm pretty happy with that. Materials is good with me. And then we've got the financial sector doing relatively well as well. I'll bring this up onto the chart, show everybody the current track of all these sectors. So here we've got the sectors all moving. You can see here what's going on for the day. Decent amount of movement overall. Still relative weakness here in XLK. So the technology sector only up 0.8. Interesting to see that it's the other areas that are pushing the market right now. Look at this energy sector. We were talking about that just Friday, weren't we? Let's have a look at Exxon. Still think there's a bit of value in some of these oil and energy stocks. Hey Tom, is S&P 500 showing head and shoulders pattern on 4-hour time frames? You're talking about inverted, Are you talking about head and shoulders to the bearish side or inverted head and shoulders, Ferdinand? because I am looking at it. We did a quick recap on that before pre-market. Let's load up now Exxon, I think, and we'll have a look at a few other things coming in as well. Just have a look at Microsoft first. Haven't checked Microsoft chart since Friday. Check out where that's been. Microsoft's still hovering in the zone. They're really all right at that kind of support zone area. Only up 0.59 here. XOM, stock that we've looked at a few times. Still think this energy sector is really finding its support zone, support areas around here. We've obviously got a low of, you know, $30 here, which is going to be huge buying pressure. And we looked at the analysis and, of course, what the general market sentiment was on the next 12 months for Exxon. It was huge. Does anyone remember what it was? I'll actually bring it up for everyone to have a look at. What was the 12-month financial analysis kind of expectation for Exxon? Anyone remember? Consensus estimates were super high on this one. Donnie says, I got into Exxon last week. Yeah, you often want to be looking where no one else is. And it obviously had that huge bullish. I think this was way overblown. I couldn't believe when it went up that fast. But if we have a look at the consensus estimates, here we go. 48.32, and that's an average as well. So they're believing a 48.32 potential upside here on Exxon. I don't know about that, but is an interesting area. So we'll continue to hopefully watch for some accumulation down at this zone. I don't think it's out of the woods yet. We're not seeing enough bullish momentum or anything. Still have that 34 handle kind of support that will act as resistance with the 20 moving average. But overall, my ideal for this stock is do this. Create a beautiful accumulation pattern, break out long. That's good. Oil's not over for short-term investments. It's just going to be tough for long-term. But we're right at that kind of support zone right now. Mike Robinson says, stuff oil, buy Tesla. Absolutely, man. I get ya. But at the same time, it's they're different trades, eh? Tesla's like your long-term, well, it's a trade or it's your long-term investment in the technology and the idea. And of course, oil, you know, there's always money to be made. I thought stuff coal. I remember one of the first stocks I ever bought, I realized they had coal. It was Wesfarmers in Australia. And I was like 15 or something. I went, I learned about coal at school. It's useless. Turns out, 10 years later, they were still using coal and coal spiked huge in price. So it can always happen. Bearish head and shoulders pattern for US 500 4 hour. Really? Are you seeing that? All right. How are you seeing this? I want to go into this actually and just help you out with this one. So a couple of things with head and shoulders patterns. I know what you're looking at, okay? You're thinking this is the left shoulder, this is the head, this is the right shoulder. So there's a few things wrong with this kind of analysis in my opinion. And it doesn't mean that you're doing everything wrong or anything. It's that we're basically creating a head and shoulders out of nowhere based on just a couple of peaks. You could see everything being head and shoulders. Now, I know some YouTubers and other people will maybe decide that this is it. But remember, right shoulder always wants to be smaller and more compressed down than the left shoulder. What that shows us is that the market is showing a strong signal of bearish intent. When the right shoulder becomes higher than the left shoulder, that's a problem because it's showing that the market is not as weak as you think. So I know what you're saying. And yeah, you could maybe, if it's sold off this area, becomes like a head and shoulders, but it's not pronounced enough for me. I'd be just trading it off the technicals. And remember, look at the real SPX. I don't think the real SPX is going to be showing you such a great signal. Only the futures will be. Let's take a look around the market. So we've got real selling here still coming in for dollar index, 93.43. Still probably the story of the day. That should put bullish pressure on gold here. Looking for a 1920 resistance hold and a close above 1920 to be very bullish for gold. back potentially into the 1950s and 1960s from a technical perspective. 1920, a true fight between the bulls and the bears here. Jonathan Doe says, I like your last name, by the way, Jonathan. Jonathan Doe. Nice. You must be a good trader, investor, man. Tom, coal pays huge dividends and lots of those companies have no debt. Coal is the new tobacco. There you go, man. I hated coal too, but yeah, there was profit in it. Siddharth says, better fill up my car before gas follows oil up. Yep, that's true. You know, it's artificially kept at all points. Obviously, it's supply demand. It's never been rare oil. It's just been manipulated by countries. We all know that. Let's have a look around put call ratios. Obviously, had a 1.71 handle, forcing really a bit of difficulty to see further selling into the market when you have a 1.71. I don't want to have it that high for the bear side. This high usually means more bullish kind of moves. But overall, that's there. For anyone that's just joining us, remember, put your monthly pivots on your S&P 500. SPX monthly pivots are always worthwhile loading onto your charts. We hit the central, which was that 33 kind of 80 zone, 33.86. Monthly S1 around the 3200 support. And of course, monthly R1, very key zone here, right into previous high resistance. And that was respected heavily last month. Look at how the monthly R1 was respected. The central was touched and then bought off a little bit. S1 area, and then of course S2. All the pivots were fairly well respected last month on the S&P 500. Let's go to the markets now, have a look what's changed and what hasn't changed. Generally speaking, Tesla now up 3.27%, finding a 328 handle here. Nvidia still doing quite well. Let's quickly refresh that. Nvidia is just a crazy stock. Can't stop it. Salesforce doing well. Still the banks doing decent. We'll have a look at those. Berkshire Hathaway. What is that price on Berkshire Hathaway? 213. So still kind of slowly falling off there a little bit. Pavel says Nvidia is up 2.5% on the news of announced ready made by Nvidia DGX SuperPods. Wow, Pavel, I have no idea what that means. Ready made Nvidia DGX SuperPods. All right. What is your opinion of the crypto markets? I think the crypto markets are really sentiment driven. I think that something like Bitcoin, Ethereum, those kind of big ones have a place to be traded quite technical. And if you're going to trade the smaller kind of coins, understand the way they deal with breakouts, understand the sentiment behind them, and you have to trade them based on human psychology. That's my opinion on it. I have no idea whether those markets hold up. I feel like, I mean, to me, logically, the way I think of it is governments won't like crypto, so they'll create a whole bunch of their, like, US dollar will become a crypto coin effectively. US dollar crypto. And then that is a beautiful tax-based structure coin. And it's very, very efficient in the tax structure for them to be able to track everything. Yeah, we'll look at Nikola and Slack in just a minute. So yeah, I think that there's going to be huge investments in crypto. I think we're still at the beginning of what effectively was the internet. Try to figure out what's going to work and what isn't. Let's get rid of this song. Not feeling that one. All right, so we'll look at work here, which is of course Slack. Still a very good company, I think, to be looking at. Got nice base accumulation here. It's right at the key resistance zone. I'd like to see a break high here and then a retest. So break, close high, come back and retest this zone, the 28 area. Previous support's getting through it right now. That's bullish. That is bullish. We see a close above the 28 zone. Very bullish for Slack. I like the area. Been targeting this for a little while. So pretty happy with this zone. Pretty happy with this area. One thing with Slack, it hasn't been on the market for a while. So it hasn't actually really seen enough earnings reports. That's why it's still struggling to find how much it's worth. It's not unknown for about 1 to 2, maybe 3 years for things like Facebook, Snap, all of those type of companies to struggle for a little while and then find their feet if they're good companies. Oh, Pavel says it's ready-made AI supercomputers. Yeah, well, they're very, very strong in AI, Pavel. That's really the main investment. It's not really necessarily graphics cards. Tom, do you use leverage for your position? So in currency, you always use leverage, Roman. Currency and commodities trading. Obviously, you would leverage real estate as well through a mortgage. And yes, you can leverage stocks. I think, though, that with stocks, you have to pick your timing. So if you believe that we're out in like a, maybe a year or two's time, we're out of like a, into recovery and we're into a 10-year cycle, you can probably think about leverage at that point. You obviously have to make your own decisions, but you got to be very careful with stock market leverage. You can get beaten up very hard. Usually slow and steady does it best. All right, let's have a look at our favorite and everybody else's favorite stocks. Neo, not my favorite obviously, but Neo kind of got that breakout, got asked about this a whole bunch. It's tested this zone twice now and bounced off it. I see this as only a trade stock. It is insane. It's clearly going to have a big sell-off on at one point. That's the nature of these kind of vertical stocks eventually, but right now we have trades off support. So when it pulls back to supports, it basically goes up. What happened to my Nikola? There it is. My God, it's recovering, guys. How can this stock be recovering? All right, well, look, I mean, I think there's clearly a 20 and a 200 here. But for me, if it keeps recovering, there's going to be a lot of selling pressure just underneath 30. I wouldn't be surprised to see it further bull now that it's gone up here. But at 30, I expect it to find a brick wall of selling. Should be selling at 30. That's just based on that point. But remember, this is not very good from a technical analysis perspective. What can you do? There's no real analysis long term on this chart. We don't even know how well it works with analysis. What we do know is that this 30 zone will be a point where people start taking profit and going, oh my God, I need to get out of this stock. So somewhere around the 28 to 30, I think I'd be boxing up resistance at that point. Yeah, I'll look at MSB quickly. This is Mesoblast, big stock in kind of Australia. Well, not really that big. It's coming into resistance straight away. We covered this quickly. I'll do it very, very quickly here. Resistance off the support lines makes sense. Break close above here, instantly bullish into like a 24.50 kind of range. It's at the right point. We've got a new high, got the consolidation coming in. It's kind of slowly melting up through this 20 moving average here on the daily as well. I remember doing this chart. So we got 20 moving average, huge amounts of support. I think a break close up here is going to be very bullish for the stock all the way up into this 24 area. This is Masabi Trust. This isn't even the same one. All right, there you go. You can see it's too late. That's what I'd be looking at in that stock though. That's very good technicals. All right, Mesoblast. There we go. This is the one that actually got belted. All right. So bad announcement, back into support. That's all I have to say. This is support, $11. Yeah. Kind of like that other one though, the Masabi Trust, now that I've seen it. Not bad zone. What is this thing? Non-energy minerals, steel. All right, I like this zone, guys. 21.50. Came on it by accident, but definitely a good area. Yeah, Mesoblast. Yeah, blow off, really. It will find bullish pressure off here. But this stock, whenever I've traded it, it's just busted so many times. It's busted so many times over the years. Very disappointing stock generally on the market. This is the zone though, 320. Previous resistance, multiple supports. Still holding Slack's position, says Linus. Yeah, Slack's a good company. Heavenvol says it will get rejected at even 27. Could be shot there on support for Neo. Yeah. So I will answer that question a little bit later, Roman, in terms of in another day about leverage. All right, well, we're in about now, 20-something minutes. We'll have a quick look over at the market, see if we've got any more interesting things. Look like a relatively bullish start to the day and bearish on the dollar. Found resistance here on that line that we drew up for the Nasdaq. So straight on 11,380, we found resistance. Found resistance a little bit higher than we thought on the S&P 500 here on the left. I'd be still looking at the Nasdaq for the day. Tom, AMD is off to a good start. It's very promising technology. That's from Jonathan Doe. Yeah, the technology of that, they're just so far ahead in these CPUs right now. Like if I was to build, well, this this rig here that I use for trading at home, this is an AMD. You know, I haven't had an AMD in a system for years before that. But, you know, a few years ago, I think, a year and a half ago, I rebuilt this system and AMD. Good question, Jeremy. Is it better to focus on a trade and trade a handful of companies and learn their stock chart behavior, or try to scout best opportunities everywhere? Focus, 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 Jeremy. I stick with big ones, and I often say I have no idea what the hell is going on there in terms of that stock, because I focus on big blue chips. I focus on understanding them. I focus on the options pricing on them. I focus on spread pricing on them. I want to know everything possible about that company. And once you understand the way a company reacts, the way a company is traded, the hours it's traded in, like in Australia, a classic case would be FMG has always been a huge trader stock. It's always had one of the biggest volumes of the day. Once you understand that, you can truly understand the beast. So focus in on areas, but definitely define a few key sectors that you want to invest in. Don't waste your time saying, okay, I want to trade this for 10 years and you're looking at JP Morgan. You know, that's probably not going to be a smart play. Maybe understanding a tech sector stock would be better. So if the dollar keeps diving, gold to the moon, writes from Liam Mentha. Yeah, gold will move more bullish. Same with Bitcoin, should both move relatively bullish if we see dollar weakness continue. VIX is getting quite high. It'd be interesting to see if the US, VIX going up, and that going up with the market is always usually a bearish sign. We saw the same thing on Friday, didn't we? Let's have a look. Let's load up that VIX together right now. 28.9. So it's still really where it was before. It's just, fell off actually into the market and then finding bullish movement again. Still maintain. We need it above 30 to show us anything. Yeah, Jeremy, try to focus in on companies. It's really good kind of way of doing things. Kevin Hall, when price on a stock opens in a gap, do you enter right away or would you wait for a candle confirmation although it already gapped up? Ooh, so is it gapped up above a high level of resistance? So say, we get, let's just say this was a great level of resistance. We gap up and we open up above it. Oftentimes it will continue bulling move because it's gapped up against a strong level of resistance. If it does come back down, it's often short-lived. It'll be like bang, bang, straight up. So if you're looking at breakouts, then I guess you would take it. Now, if the breakout opened up here and your whole profit was only 34 and opened at 32, it's probably not worth taking the risk. So you'd want it to come back down. Remember, risk reward's a huge thing when you're taking trades. Jimmy says, Jimmy brings up a good one there. Jimmy Bray says, best traders in the world trade no more than 3 stocks and just rinse and repeat. Jimmy is not wrong. They don't trade many. Because you're trading. You need to just know the beast. In currency, there's often quite a lot of price action setups that you can do. But in stocks, better understanding your stocks. Is VIX a lagging indicator? It can be, but generally it's based on, of course, price over a period of time. There's different VIXs though. Interferon Boy says, can you do some analysis on the ASX 200 chart, dude? Really want to learn to read the last 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks have been wild, man. A lot of reaction to the US market. And then, of course, the Fed stimulus. We'll cover that in another one. We're approaching like 1 a.m. Please ask me about it in the future. I will plan on doing some ASX 200 for the Aussies out there, though. I should really give a little bit of love to our index in the analysis. VIX to the moon. Yeah, watch this VIX today. So I guess in summary, things I'll be looking at. Watch the VIX. Definitely worthwhile checking out. Of course, let's see how the dollar ends up closing. Dollar weakness under the 93.50. Very bearish there. In terms of markets here, what are we looking for? Well, we're still stuck in nowhere zone land for both the US 500 and, of course, the US 100 Nasdaq. That being said, if the Nasdaq continues to bear at the close of the day and gets under this 11,200 zone, just say it did, that's very bearish. We'll obviously be making a video summarizing exactly what's gone on today in tomorrow's video. So we'll be covering all the main stocks that have done anything and, of course, indices. Can we have a look at Apple? Yeah, we'll do that as one of the closing kind of things. Kartik Kumar said, Tom, last Friday we had a look at Bank Nifty, and as you mentioned, 22,700 will be strong resistance. It acted so today and sold off. Well, there you go. Yeah, look, as I said, there's always key areas, and when I say strong resistance, usually means something. Otherwise, I'll just be like resistance support. I don't get that excited about them, yeah? Let's have a look at Apple, see how it's acting for today. AAPL. So Apple 114.59, still really in the area or the zone. We've got this 111, what is this? 111, 112 area. That's the support. And for Apple to really make big, strong moves up. Oh God, that's so annoying. I got to get rid of this magnetic thing. 118, we want to see it break above. 118 will be very bullish for Apple. We have an announcement coming up as well for the new iPhone. That's only a few days away. Apple news announcement date. Let's have a look here. Yeah, we'll leave the site. So, looks like we have, what day is it? I thought they already announced that they've done this. Oh, okay, we've oh my God. Can't even get to the damn thing. Oh, well, I have no idea why that's not loading, but someone can tell me in the chat which day it is. It's coming up for sure. All right, everybody. So watch this VIX, watch the dollar index. Of course, for the markets, it looks like we've got a bit of a lackluster Monday morning bell. That's not always the way. Watch the close, most important things. Let's see what Trump does, and let's obviously see what the Fed brings us later in the week. Thanks for the continued support. Obviously, thank you very much for following us on the channel, and the community's been amazing this year. I just want to give a shout out to each and every one of you because your support is what makes me want to keep coming and doing these live sessions. You know, we had 500 people here plus today just for a relatively lackluster Monday. It's becoming a bit of a pretty special event, I think. So thank you very much to each and every one of you, and we'll see you very soon. Bye for now.